Welcome, everybody. This is Hugh Massie, the chairman and founder of DNA Behaviour International. And today I'm delighted to be hosting another identity conversation. And I have with me Julie Murphy from JMC Wealth Management in Chicago. And Julie's been working with our tools and systems for financial DNA for the last 6 or 7 years. And she's a book author. Big believer in the emotional side of financial planning. I think even bigger than that, for all human beings to be more awakened to their consciousness. And has this most wonderful quote that if you learn to love yourself, money will learn to love you. And I think that is something actually was very impactful. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
So Julie, you're doing this amazing work that over the course of times been touching a lot of people, and I think in the future is going to accelerate even more. But how did you get into the wealth management space and have this big life purpose and drive to dealing with the emotional side of money?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. So my first book that came out was called The Emotion Behind Money. It all came about, I started in this industry right after college. And I was in this program years ago where the clients that I built were my clients. They weren't the clients of the company that I worked for. And as I started to infiltrate myself, I can remember back in the day where I was like, yeah, I'm just not a blue suit. I couldn't do the blue suit back in the day. And I was like, one, being female, and two, I mean, you could, but there was a disconnect. And I was working like 80 to 90 hour weeks, being able to satisfy my employment contract that I had at the time, as well as do the right thing for people. And I'm like, there's a huge disconnect here, because back then I was really doing holistic planning before I actually knew it was, because I was really digging deep into people's whys. Why do you want it? Why do you, I would just question and, kind of like a toddler does. Why? And then in 2003, I actually decided to take the first stage of what I call letting your freak flag fly. And I moved my office into a loft space in the West Loop in Chicago. And because I no longer wanted to wear a suit, because to me, people don't open up emotionally if they're walking into a mahogany desk office with a stiff suit on. Yeah. And people don't open their heart and soul. They become much more polished, much more dressed, much more guarded. What I like to call like they're protecting their heart wall. And that was really that's when I incorporated and I became independent. I went as an independent. I'm a hybrid RIA today. And I surveyed my clients and just really asked them, like, what do you want? I'm going to jump off the ledge here and leave the big institution. And what do you want? Like, because to me, I want to really operate as the client advocate. And really what it boils down to is that I've created an organization where we bring humanity back into finance, and that the heart and soul actually matters, and that it has to be fiscally prudent as well as prudent and in alignment with your heart and your soul, and marrying those two places together for a person.
I would definitely agree with you, having gone on my own journey with this, that if you're wearing a suit, the blue suit with a white shirt and red tie type thing, like I learned when I was at Arthur Andersen many years ago, a Chicago-based firm, right. It makes you too tight and as you say, guarded, and things don't unravel from that. It's too packaged and transactional. And I think what you're trying to do is really get to the heart of the person. Mm-hmm. But so I went on my own journey as well of, I stopped wearing suits, a long time ago, but you still want to be well presented and professional, but
absolutely.
You do want to make it a relaxed environment for people to share. And I think that's not going to happen if they're all buttoned up. Right. And choking. Mm-hmm. But Julie, what got you into financial planning right out of college? 25 years ago, you got into the wealth management space. What was it that got you in there?
Yeah, so, I interviewed for all different areas. So back then, banking wasn't open to doing personal financial planning, back then, like you can today. The Glass-Steagall Act was still in place. So it was either you're going to dial for dollars and you were going to work for a wirehouse, right, and
Yeah.
cold call, or it was going to be work for an insurance company and you were going to, sell insurance. And there were a couple insurance companies at the time that actually did financial planning based on a funnel system. And, where you start, you had the Northwestern Mutuals of the world, where they still operate the same way today. And so that I actually landed at John Hancock at the time. And it was because they had this program that allowed me to be a financial planner. They had a 2-year track where you would be a certified financial planner at the end of those, to that 2-year window. And your clients were your clients at that time. And they had run it as a pilot program. I actually think I just got lucky because those programs existed only for a very short period of time. And I just really it was like financial planning was about meeting the client where they're at as opposed to what I tried to sell them. And I believe that there's a masculine, we all have masculine and feminine energies as human beings. So being in finance is more masculine and I really resonated because I had 8 brothers and it was like, I was just like going because there was very few women in the field and a lot of men. And so kind of felt like at home on some level. But then, digging deeper, it was about, bringing the female side of me into finance, being more relationship orientated as opposed to product sales. And I resonated way more there. And again, men and women both have masculine and feminine energy. I've been known to be a woman that has a lot of masculine energy. I very much so take initiative and push and not that pretty little flower that sits on the sidelines. But the financial planning side, I was introduced to Financial Profiles years ago. It's the software and it's still the software I use today. Why? Because people who are not in finance understand pictures.
Yeah.
Much more than they understand like reports that are 50 pages long. And certainly there's great softwares out there, but it was about how do you create this place of complexity, but make it simple for those who are not finance minded or have the time to spend doing it. And I just really enjoy being the client advocate. And I've also, the other part of the planning is not everything is done by the financial planner themselves, but I've created different layers of strategic alliances where like we have the normal ones that are the estate planning attorneys and the accountants, to do those things for them. But then I have what I call the tweeners, which are more like family therapists or nutritionists, things of that nature that are maybe a little outside of the box. And then I have that layer of strategic alliances where I call them my esoteric strategic alliances. And it developed to that over time. The esoteric ones are ones that help people more on a heart and soul level than more of a logistical financial level. And depending on how deep a client wants to go, that I realized like, wow, financial planning, and I would call it life planning. People don't know how to ebb and flow through things. And I have just, I had one woman who came to me and she goes, Julie, I know this is a crazy question, but I know that I know you might know somebody that can give me a referral to this. And she was wanting a surrogate. And I was like, oh, that's really funny. I do have an esoteric strategic alliance that can do surrogacy for you. And it's because I've just built this network to really just help people. Yeah. And that's part of the financial planning process. And that's really my heart and soul. That's what I love to do. I love to just help people to live the life of their dreams. And how do we get them there? And the reason people don't get there is because they feel like they've been pigeonholed into a lifestyle. And then they don't have the freedom to shift to, like, we stay in jobs that we hate. And, then we get sick and then we die. I use that quote in my most recent book from the Dalai Lama, that he's so confused about the Western world because we spend all of our money all these years that we build up ignoring our health, but then at the end of our lives, we use all that money then to pay for all of our healthcare and everything that we need because we ignored the quality of our lives all along the way. And for me, I want to continue to keep asking clients and pressing them as to, you know, does your life excite you? Because usually you've become a really good provider, but that job may have served your heart and soul at one point and now it's not. And so what do we do about that? How does that feel financially? How does that feel? You know, so I go deep with people. I go really deep. And
yeah, I think at the end of the day, people have to discover their passion and have the courage to live it.
Right.
And it's too easy to start off in a corporate career, earn quite a lot of money relatively young, and get into the wealth trap and have a big mortgage, cars. Their expectations get built up at home that we've got to have this sort of lifestyle, trips and whatnot, school fees.
Yep.
And then really, in a way, you're living a life of misery and always scared, am I going to lose my job and the connection to that income stream? And,
Right.
it is very painful for people, and it does cause, you're right, it causes, massive health issues. But was it, for you, Julie, was there a particular event that got you, you're already in wealth management, you started there from day one, I think, pretty much wanting to help people, but was there a life event that took place for you, relatively early on here that drove you in deeper down this path? Did something go on that, we switched more and more into, as you said, the life planning aspect of this?
Yeah, you know what? It came in layers, right? So,
Yeah.
So it's certainly, I started in a chassis that was product sales. And then that's when I realized, like, God, I got to work like 80, 90 hours a week to satisfy my insurance sales quota with John Hancock to actually do the right thing by people. And I was like, ugh, and then that's when I just decided going, I can't do that anymore. Like that was not the quality of life I wanted to live. Right. And then, and certainly you have the evolution of the business that happened. And in 2003, I had been in the business then for 8 years. And when I decided to actually then move my office into a life space, because it was really about the fact that I was being not forced. My heart, I would say, was really driving me that I had to live what I was teaching. And so that next layer, and I will never forget this one woman coming into my office. She walked in and she tested every theory that I had. She walked in and it wasn't the mahogany desk. And I remember she was a strong referral. She came in, she had about $2.2 million. She walks in the office and my staff, got all the intake stuff. And then she came into my office and she was so put off that she told me, I just don't think you guys have your act together because look at this place. Like totally challenged the exposed brick walls, that I wasn't the mahogany desk place. And so it was interesting that I got challenged right off the get-go of going, you're going to go back to conform like everybody else, or are you really going to let your freak flag fly and be who you are? And that was a major turning point for me because that just actually drove me to go deeper. Like I was just like, oh no, I can't. Like, because there was a part of me inside that was dying, staying in a mahogany desk office area. Because I was being told to like button up and wear a tight suit and I just couldn't do that anymore. And what always has happened, there's been 3 or 4 of these events like that one that have happened in my career where it's been major transformation and up leveling to a deeper level of what we do. And because it came again the second time when I decided to change my broker dealer. And that was a big one. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this transition, because in essence, you're out of business for 6 months. But this was really me putting my money where my mouth was.
Yeah.
Going, I need a deeper level of independence. And how am I going to do that? And I'll never forget, it was the craziest thing. I was in my early 30s and Citibank happened to mail me a $60,000 credit line application in the mail. And I was like going, this is my bridge. And I fill it out. And to this day, I still have that Citibank account because it was almost like the universe was responding to me needing more space to make this transition. And it was just like my backup. And, there are these milestones that happened that those things open up. And I now know this when I coach clients, those things open up when you're meant to go that path and you're meant to go down that direction. And they close up like that woman. I was like, I got so many referrals after that woman told me no, and I just decided to keep going. I haven't looked back since. And now I have $15 million accounts. It's like,
So, yeah, I think what it brings out, though, is it's about being conscious of yourself and, what your values are, what's important,
right.
Your own energy flows, and whether it's then knowing the message comes, okay, this isn't the right client, or I need to go deeper and double down on this, write a book, those evolutions. I think that's what's important. But also, as the coach to the clients, it's important to be able to help them see these things as well for themselves.
Totally.
As they make their financial choices. So, Julie, when you came across financial DNA, I think it's 6 or 7 years ago now, what did you think about, the process and how it fitted into where you were going?
Well, for me, it was a software that actually quantified what I was doing for people esoterically. So it's like what it was the bridge between the finance world and the human world. And the way I describe it to people is I said, you know what? My whole industry does this whole left brain logical, and we approach finance based on just your left logical brain. Very smart, very intelligent, definitely a piece of the equation. The problem is we forget the human component, and we don't only have a left brain, we all have a right brain as well. And so financial DNA, actually what that does is, and the way I explain to clients is that it actually connects not only your right and left brain, but your heart and your head. And it's actually often, clients have actually said to me going, wow, this is kind of like marriage counseling too, because I'll read the DNA report of, what are your strengths and then what are your weaknesses and then how to talk to you. And they're going, I wish I would have known that one at the beginning of my marriage of how to actually talk to people, talk to my spouse. And then when we nail it, and then I tell the clients, I'm going, but remember, here's your report, here's his report. Neither one of them's wrong.
Yeah.
They're just who you are. So we have to build everything around a safe place for both of you to be exactly who you are. Because this isn't like a he said, she said. And I'm telling you, it pulls the fire out of money conversations with spouses like nothing else can. And it's been amazing actually having it's not just Julie analyzing it, it's a technical software and then applying it to portfolios and stuff like that in alignment with that. And it just clicks with clients. Like they just get it. And
yeah, it's in a way, it's a very easy way to level set the conversation and make both parties, the husband and wife or partners or families or team, everybody to feel equal in the process. I think
and we've even used it for my staff. We all, where when there's a natural conflict amongst my staff members, I'll be like, of course, because he's a reflective thinker and you're an influencer. Of course, these things are going to happen. And then they go, oh, that's kind of funny. I go, and we need all of you because we need all of your perspectives to be different. And it's okay. Because what it does is it helps to create a space of safety. People don't grow and expand as well as they can if they didn't feel safe.
So Julie, as an influencer, and that's what you are. what did the financial DNA say to you about your strengths as a human being? Let's start there because you are into humanizing the world, but also as an advisor or as an investor. What in your own right? What did this say to you?
Well, I will say that one of the ones that always comes up is just get to the point. Don't waste my time. Blah blah blah. Like that. Yep. That is me. And people have been put off by that part of my personality. And when my staff is like, oh, I'm like, guys, I can't change it. It's just who I am. That's why I have Mark here. So Mark can be like the interpreter, because that's what makes me a great entrepreneur. And it makes me really great at like getting to the point of what you need to get your life to the next place from a financial planning perspective. I'm really, really good at that stuff. But it can be like, you just need to know it's not about you. It's actually just my personality trait. It's just my behavioral traits. And it just is what it is, and then work around it. So it's been a great way, throughout my years, I tend to be a pioneer in many things that I do.
Yep.
And so a lot of people naturally don't understand me per se, but they always know I land on my feet and I'm always super successful in things. And it's kind of been the DNA for me being an influencer has almost been an interpreter for me to other people. And be like, well, here's me as an advisor. And like, then they know, like, that's why it's better to deal with my staff members. Like I found that in the financial planning process in our new marketing materials that for years we had it, there's the planning side of the house, which you pay us an annual retainer for. And then there's the implementation of your plan, which is doing managed accounts for investments or insurance sales. And I have found that after like a 3 to 5 year window, I'm bored with the client because they're on maintenance mode. And I have found that we've added a third tier, and that's the maintenance mode. And I explain to people now right up front, after now knowing this from my DNA behavior, is that I need to be out of that process because that's not where I shine. I shine here on the front end. And then if things really get a little nutty and crazy and off track over here, then pull me back in. Because that's where my magic is.
Yeah, and that's really because you're very fast paced.
Right.
And, coming with that to the point, even though we're dealing with human beings, quite rational with it in sort of connecting the dots of here's the pathway that you need to go. And in a way, I think it's that third, what the reports do is verbalize that third eye that you have that's right. Very intuitive there, but enable you to sort of lay it out for someone to see, because otherwise they wouldn't. And I found for me as a planner, my style is, I'm different to you in the sense that I'm introverted, but I've got that fast-paced trait.
Right.
Once it's set up at the start, I need my team to do the rest of it. Otherwise, I might lose people or not be patient enough when they're expressing a feeling, but they would always come to me because they know that I understood what's going on for them and get them the best solution, which is what you've done with your network.
Totally. Yep.
But you're also, another element of your financial DNA is you're also very outgoing. And so how does that work in your world, the outgoing?
Well, I mean, I've built my whole business off of referrals. I am an incredible marketer. And I've used that outgoingness. Like I've now translated it into social media and an online platform where I do these, YouTube videos and podcasts, and I have no problem saying everything and anything, and it's just, again, what I say is like, that's me letting my freak flag fly. It's like, use that outgoing nature in the way that then supports my mission and purpose in the world that much more to help people.
In a way, the social media is a great way to connect to lots of people.
Absolutely.
When we're in a time-pressured world, you've got 4 kids. It's not easy. You can't just be at every cocktail function or lunch party that's going on. I mean,
right.
It's got to happen some way. So that's how it comes. But also, it's very motivating if you're able to communicate like you do. It's very motivating for people.
Very much so. Yeah.
To hear this message. So Julie, if we sort of go past financial DNA a little bit and say, who is Julie Murphy? How do you want to show up in the world? And I'm really getting here is your identity. You've gone through these 4 or 5 evolutions that you talked about in the business. Like all of us, your life goes through evolutions. But now if we sort of said, who is Julie Murphy, your identity, that higher place of being that you want to be at?
Yeah, so my heart and soul, well, I guess logistically understand that, I'm divorced mom with 4 kids, and I run a company. And I just have this incredible mission and purpose to financially heal the world. And it's really, it was interesting. I had a near-death experience giving birth to my 4th child. And it literally put me on the path of my soul in a very pronounced way.
Yeah.
And I had spent time before that, when my first book came out, it came out right before the crash of 08 and 09. I then found myself on CNBC on a show called On the Money for a year and a half. So I've spent a lot of TV time doing what I do.
Yeah.
And then social media and YouTube and things of that nature is just the next iteration of that, right? It's a way that I'm able to be a mom in the world and as well as has the huge exposure like CNBC did. And it's just about building a following and building a knowing. And I know the process that I walk people through that I've created in my book, Awaken Your Wealth, is the process that helps people to get them to a life that they love and one that they dream and desire, that puts your heart first and then your smarts second. Like, align yourself with your heart and then add how smart you are behind that, is one of my teachers has taught me. And then really doing that for millions. I remember back in, you talked about those turning points. There was a gentleman, he was the, at the time, the CEO of AssetMark, who's a third-party investment platform. Yeah. And Brian O'Toole said to the whole crowd, like, who here thinks that Susie Orman's an expert? No one in the room raised their hand because we're all financial planners. And then he said, how many of you guys think you're an expert? We all raised our hands. And then he goes, Susie Orman's the only one telling everybody else she's the expert. And I was like, oh. And I knew right then and there, it like pinged in me, like really deep in my heart and my soul, that I was supposed to hit the mass markets. And I have been working on building that, and I'm way ahead of so many financial planners as far as social media followings. I have over 50,000 Facebook followers, and it's growing and it's compounding. And I now have a platform, a marketing platform, online platform that's generating revenue and everything, that's now feeding other advisors. And because, another turning point I had after my first book came out, I had another person in the industry say to me, well, you're just kind of like Julie, the one-hit wonder. You're not a repeatable process. And I was like, and that really like going, okay, for me to make a big impact, it has to be a repeatable process. And that drove me to the second book, like really working with people of how to analyze and succinct in like, what is my process? And then teaching other financial planners to do my process. And now we're doing all of that. And that really, my identity to really help people live a life that they really dream and desire of happiness all along the way. I call it real wealth. Whether you're a dreamer, a debtor, an accumulator, or rich but empty, you don't have to become rich to find that real wealth. Yeah. You can be rich. You can embody real wealth wherever it is that you are at whatever point in your life you are. And that is my message, and it drives me day in and day out.
Yeah. So do you think you're if we sort of put words around this, Julie, like a pioneer of real wealth, that's it? Or is it the financially healing the world?
Yeah, I really resonate with bringing humanity back into finance, like while financially healing the world, right? You bring the humanity in because you're really financially healing them.
But it's bringing it in. But it's bringing it in for the masses, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's bringing humanity into finance for the masses.
Yep. Because it drives me crazy that no one who's talking to the mass market actually has the accreditations. It drives me nuts. They're all journalists or people who have had life experience, but they're not people who actually have investment platforms.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the advisors that are doing it that talk about humanity or the human side of financial planning, they're really doing it for just a few clients, and they're not doing it for the masses. And I think this is, I think we're talking about financial literacy here, and it's not about a stock or a bond. It's
Right.
it's about the human being,
Mhm.
and there aren't many that are doing it. You really are in a unique space,
Yep.
particularly having a process. So
Yep.
so I think so. So I think that's the part that is that's really important here. And then the outcome, yes, you're going to financially heal a whole lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Or a whole lot of people are going to learn to love themselves, and money's going to learn to love them.
Exactly.
Whatever amount of, and I think what you're also saying is whatever that amount of money is. I think we're a lot of us are taught, or society teaches us to have the most money, and we'd be all happy if we're billionaires and whatnot. But really, you're not.
Right.
And so I think that's what you're bringing to the world, is to be who you are and have a healthy relationship with money at the end of the day.
Right. Exactly. And to me, it's about, no matter what stage or age of life that you are, that you can have happiness and joy and disease-free in your physical body. You can embody that at whatever place that you are. And that's really the core essence, because I've watched patterns with people. We either act things out or we work it out through our health, through our money, or through our relationships.
Yeah, and I think that not enough of us think of all three of those at the same time. They've all got to be working.
Yep, exactly.
And I can just see with the smile and energy you have that you've got that figured out. Because also, to bring it to the masses, I think you're making it fun, and that's a big part as well, is to learn how to make it fun. So.
Yep.
So just as we wrap up here, Julie, have you got any tips for our listeners? Anything that you'd like to share or reiterate?
I really believe that, we live in a hologram, which means that your outside world reflects what's going on in your inside world. So if you always do the most self-loving and self-caring things, then your whole outside world will shift to one that you desire. But it's when we negotiate ourselves away, and whether you're with an employer that you're not fully aligned with, or you stay in a marriage that you're not fully aligned with, whatever all of that is, if you do the most self-loving and self-caring thing, then your external world will really show it all. And it's been fascinating to me to realize that we really do live in this hologram, like a mirror. And we think it's outside of ourselves, but it's actually the stuff in the inside that needs to shift to a place that's more self-loving and more self-caring.
Yeah, and I think that's a great tip to end this on. And that's why I'm doing a lot more work on the identity front here, because I think if we can get people to that place.
Totally.
And they love their identity, they'll love themselves. As you said, they'll love money, they'll love how they look, how they show up in relationships. And that's really where the behavioral change comes.
Yep.
Because once you get to that place, then you will change your behaviors to live it. If you don't have that higher place you're aspiring to, you're not going to make the changes, and you'll just continue being miserable, or you make bad decisions.
Yeah, you'll just keep attracting the same people with different names. Yep. Or different employers, but yet same coworkers and you'll just keep repeating the patterns.
Correct. It's about breaking the pattern.
Yep.
And so I think it's fantastic. So thank you, Julie, for spending some time with me today. And I look forward to continuing the conversation and supporting your great work.
Thank you.